Hi, I'm Edwin Samuelson. Welcome to the Cinefiles, the show that allows you to eavesdrop on the conversation of fellow film fanatics. All right, well, today we're discussing one of the big summer movie franchises, which is Indiana Jones. This summer, the Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out. And
sound a little more enthusiastic over there. You just sound like you're on autopilot.
Yeah.
Jeez.
This is Jeff saying
That's
it.
Jeff saying that. Really? Well, hell, I can't really get too enthusiastic as some people. I'm not gonna stand out. I'm not gonna stand outside for 3 days to get tickets for this thing. But we will be discussing all four of the films this week, and we'll start off, of course, with the most famous of all of them, which is Raiders of the Lost Ark, which has been retitled for video. For people who do not know that it's an Indiana Jones film, it's Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Anyway,
I did not know that.
before I begin, let me introduce the head of the Uwe Boll fan club to my left, Mr. Derek Cohen.
Uwe Boll.
To his left, Jeff Galashaw, and to his left, Michael Folt. All right. Well, I just mentioned Uwe Boll. I had to throw that in there. People, I don't know if you know this, there is a petition out there to stop Uwe Boll from directing films.
Uwe Boll.
Uwe Boll, whatever. It sounds like a virus to me.
Uwe.
If it gets 1 million signatures, Uwe Boll, it sounds like a toilet.
Uvo?
Uwe Boll.
Well, you
Uwe
can
Boll.
flush him down the bowl.
A special
because if he gets
toilet.
1 million signatures, he will stop directing films, supposedly. So look for that petition online.
And we're already giving him much more marketing than he deserves.
But let's talk about a filmmaker very similar to Uwe Boll.
Oh, that's a low blow. Come on.
thug.
Dude, that is so mean.
All right, well, let's get into it. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas teamed up for the first time and made Raiders of the Lost Ark, which has gone on to become one of the most iconic films in history. Now, it's been 27 years, and hell, the theme is still stuck in my head all these years. Let's start off, Mike.
No, don't start off with me.
You don't want to
because your guy on your left here. This was his film that charted his childhood.
Well, I'll have you go, Eric. How about that?
All right, I'll give it a stab. Raiders of the Lost Ark, I was obsessed with it when I was a kid. It was it still is one of my favorite
Why don't you pick
movies.
at your nails when you say that? Because you
Because I'm
seem
a
so
pompous ass.
Seems so distracted.
No.
For you, our YouTube fans, you can check out the comments for yourself.
I love that guy, by the way. I forgot his name. What the fuck was I talking about?
Raiders of the
Raiders.
Lost Ark.
Raiders is just awesome. I love it. I think it's still one of the best films of its kind. Definitely
Why?
one of the best action films ever.
Why do you think it works?
Because it's a kick-ass action film. It's up there with Mad Max, The Road Warrior. It's up there with some of the great action films. The second Terminator film, the first Terminator film. It's a kick-ass
The
action
second
film.
Terminator film.
Yeah,
That's a
James Cameron.
It's all right.
I think.
No.
Event Horizon.
No, the second
Alien
Terminator.
versus Predator.
Ooh,
Hey,
we got you there.
He
I
always
like both.
uses that. It's so cheap.
I like both. So
He's
I'm
so
guilty.
cheap.
Anyways, it's just a very skillfully made film. It's a lot of fun. It's charming. I just love this film. What else do you want me to say?
Well, I have something to say.
Please be my guest.
Okay, it is not my favorite, but I want you to hear my reasons why not. This was not the first Indiana Jones film I ever saw.
Temple Doom?
Yes, Temple of Doom was the first one I
How
saw.
old were you when it came out?
The
first one.
Well, what year did it come out?
What was that, 81?
I was only 3 years old, so there was no way I was going to see that in the theater.
Me.
Sorry. But, I mean, I don't think it's a bad film. It's just not my favorite. But I do think, unlike Mr. Folt here, I do think Steven Spielberg has talent as a filmmaker. If anybody is to blame with the diminishing work of at least the Indiana Jones movies, I more blame George Lucas. But that is not a personal
Which
attack.
actually is funny. Sorry to cut in your comment, but I remember when Raiders of the Lost Ark came out, everyone was saying, oh, this movie's great. Everyone wanted to say it, but it's only good because George Lucas was involved, because the whole Star Wars thing. And now, as time will tell, no, probably a good movie because of Steven Spielberg's involved.
Exactly.
The reason I like it, I think it's a good movie. As everyone knows, I'm not the biggest Spielberg fan. I think he's directed 3 very good films. Raiders, I think, is his best film. It's his most accomplished film. The reason, Jaws is my other favorite.
And 1941.
No, E.T. of course. Those are his 3 best films. Because his sugar sweet,
Sugarland Express.
his sugar sweet sappy stuff actually worked in E.T. and then he began to milk it in every single film and make it more and more saccharine, where you just want to, if you're diabetic, you want to go into a coma. But Raiders of the Lost Ark works for me because it has a hard edge on it. It's got some nasty stuff in it for a PG movie, especially with the Nazis and a very famous melting face scene, which, you know, today I don't think you'll see that in a Spielberg film. In fact, you don't. And I think, of course, Harrison Ford always got accused of being a very bland actor. I think he creates a very iconic character. Everyone remembers it. There's a many.
When did people accuse Harrison Ford of being a bland
thought
actor?
he was a bland actor.
I think with him, with American Graffiti, Star Wars, and Indiana Jones, he like linked
I think he's been taking on these like determined American roles, you know, that he's been stuck in. But I never heard of anyone accuse him of being bland. This was a role that was originally given to Tom Selleck, and he had to turn it down.
It's actually, there's a screen test on the DVD with him on there, actually. It's
and Tim Matheson from Animal House. But apparently even Nick Nolte was up for the part. But
that is a movie.
But yeah, in fact, but Steven Spielberg's first choice was always Harrison Ford, but George Lucas didn't want him because, no, I use him in a Star Wars film. I don't want him to be my Bobby De Niro.
That genius George Lucas again.
But I have to say, Tom Selleck is a good choice for the role, but I'm so glad Harrison Ford got the role. Harrison Ford is wonderful in the role. And I mean, there's just so many great set pieces. Think of how many scenes are so memorable. There's a scene with the snakes, you know. There's a scene with the boulder. There's the Ark of the Covenant, and you know them being outside. Every scene in that movie, the gun scene, which
and
actually was an accident.
The action is really well choreographed and thought out and filmed. I mean, the stunt work is phenomenal.
Well, what I thought was funny is when I first saw the picture for the film, the movie poster. I thought, I don't want to go see a cowboy movie. And that's what I thought when I was a kid. It was a cowboy movie. And then I had a couple friends go, we just saw it. You got to see it. It's super cool. And I saw it, and I thought it was super cool.
It's definitely one of the best summer blockbuster movies ever made. And I definitely say it's
a great performance by Jonathan Rhys-Davies.
Yes.
As Sala.
And it's not Paul. I believe his name was
Karen Allen was very good.
Paul Freeman's greatest.
That's who I was going to mention. Paul Freeman.
And what's his name? The actor
who played the head Nazi.
Not the head. Belloc, the French archaeologist who was in
Paul
Long
Freeman.
Good Friday. That's Paul Freeman.
Yeah.
Who was the actor that played the Nazi? Played Todt.
The one with the hand?
Yeah.
That was the one he just mentioned there.
No. The actor.
John something. Not John.
He was great though.
John something.
Jonathan Rhys-Davies was solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was another John.
Yeah.
But he's definitely one of the best villains. I mean, he is one of the scariest villains ever in a movie.
It's the most sophisticated as a series too.
Yes.
You know,
it's the most true to its pulp roots. I think.
In a lot of ways.
And I could definitely say, too, let's not forget the great score by John Williams, which has been imitated for years. It's definitely one of the best movie scores ever.
As much as you guys want to slam Lucas, he's the one that brought the idea to Spielberg when they were supposedly sitting on the beach after their successes.
Well,
he wanted to do that. That
Spielberg is an idea
serial
man.
type.
It's just that when he leaves it to other people, his product usually, with the exception of Star Wars and maybe THX 1138. When he leaves it to other people.
You mean Lucas?
Yeah, when Lucas leaves the ideas to other people, generally he has a much better product. But when he takes control, I mean,
well, he's admitted he doesn't like writing.
That's the one director too that he couldn't take control from is Spielberg. Because Spielberg is powerful enough to go, hey George, I don't like this, I'm not doing it, and that's why the film probably turned out as well as it did. I think.
It's just really interesting to note that Spielberg hasn't done a movie of such impact since like the early '80s.
Well, I mean, you could argue it has. You just may not have liked them. I mean, Schindler's List. Come on.
No, I'm talking about that big
summer blockbuster.
Summer blockbuster type.
Jurassic Park was pretty big.
Yeah, I agree with
Jurassic Park.
No, I'm talking about good.
Well, that's
a whole other argument. This isn't about like our personal feelings. It's about what was.
Well, technically, all his films are huge.
I know some of his films.
Wow.
War of the Worlds was big, I guess.
He's unenthusiastic with our debate.
I'm going to go on record, though, as saying this is one of the movies you have to see on the big screen if possible. I was lucky enough to see it in its first re-release, like maybe about 82, 83.
You saw it in the theater, right?
I saw it in the theater.
More times than any other film.
I saw it in the best theater in the entire city. I saw it at the Astor Plaza in Times Square when it originally, when they re-released, and then I saw the next film, which we'll get into in a minute, at the Astor Plaza opening night. And I also saw Raiders at a very, very emotional time for me, very emotional for a lot of people. There was a theater on the east side called the Baronet Coronet, and they closed down, and last week, they decided to show a whole bunch of old movies for free that were famous in the theater, And the week that it showed was 9/11. And I remember trying to get my mind off of it, and it was a wonderful film to get your mind off. It was really good escapism, and it's definitely a movie you should see on the big screen.
I thought when you said it was a personal time for you, I thought for a long time when you were younger, you were being chased around by a large concrete ball.
Well, maybe I was.
And moving on to the
I mean, really, as a kid when you saw this, I mean, just think how many kids wanted to have a bullwhip when
And when
they
I had
were a
a
kid.
felt fedora.
Well, don't forget those kids which Spielberg bought the rights to actually made their own shot-for-shot scene adaptation of the movie.
Right, which
I'm
I have seen
disappointed
part
to
of.
see has not been included with the DVDs, and I heard a rumor that it would have been, and they never did that.
Well, the
I'm pissed
box set
When the
was
new one comes
really
out.
rushed out.
When the new one comes out with the new movie, probably, I guarantee
right,
you.
there you go.
Well, anyway, let's get on. Every successful movie, of course, has to have sequels. So George Lucas approached his old writing chums, Gloria Katz and Willard Hoyk, and they decided to make Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which came out in '84, 3 years after the previous film. And this time starred Harrison Ford again as Indiana Jones, as Harrison Ford. And of course, now he has a new woman, which is Kate Capshaw, Kate Capshaw, who let's just say is not on Karen Allen's level of acting.
I actually liked her. This is the only thing I liked about the film. I
This
thought
one-
she was pretty foxy.
I thought she was annoying as a character. I didn't
I
mind
guess
her.
I'm going to have to be the defender
This
of this
one-
one.
This one actually takes a lot of unused ideas from the Raiders of the Lost Ark and actually incorporates them into a new script. And this time, instead of the setting being the Middle East, it is India. Now, this one is where I really started to see the side of Spielberg I didn't like, which was with the sugar-sweet, sappy stuff. However, there's some hardcore stuff in there, which actually created the PG-13 rating with a heart being taken out of a living person as they're lowered into a pit of lava.
Well, see, you just hit the nail on the head of what I feel about this film. This was the first Indiana Jones film I saw, and I saw it as a kid. And I had the same feelings Eric had when he saw Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was so grand, I had not seen anything like it. I'll admit, watching it later in life, it is not, the best film it could be, but I feel like Raiders of the Lost Ark is more of a nostalgic film, more for adults, whereas I feel Temple of Doom is more of a nostalgic film, but it's aimed more for kids, even with all that hardcore
Which is probably
stuff.
why I hate it.
Yeah, exactly, because you hate kids. But I don't know.
If I have my own, I think I'll probably like them.
I don't know. This, I guess, to me, it had more of a comic book feeling because you had the damsel who was constantly in distress and who tries to, I guess, go line for line with Indiana Jones, but he pushes her around. And then you have, the kid sidekick.
The kid, Short Round. What a fucking annoying
I think
little-
the reason you like it is because they use all the lines all the time in the Kevin Smith movies, like "No Time for Love, Dr. Jones."
Yes, I waited all these years for Kevin Smith to make a movie, and that's why I like Temple of Doom. No, but I mean, I don't mind him referencing the movie, but I have my own reasons for liking Temple of
Short
Doom.
Round, you gotta admit, Short Round's a little piece of shit.
I mean, as I'm older, I realize how he's placed in the movie. But when I was a kid, it didn't really matter to me. I was just loving all the set pieces.
That's really
and all the
funny though.
things.
There was a 1950s action adventure film starring Ronald Reagan. It was a similar, where he played an adventurer with a leather jacket and a felt fedora, and his sidekick was an Oriental kid.
Oh God.
I think it was called Hong Kong, actually.
And that little kid was Ferdinand Marcos, the former dictator of the Philippines.
Yes. I like Temple
just
of
killing
Doom.
it
I think
here.
it's okay. I hate the Short Round bit. I love the opening sequence though when they're in the nightclub.
That's a good
I think
scene.
that's like my favorite scene in the whole film.
I don't even remember.
My problem with Temple
Chinese
of Doom,
nightclub.
well, that's like the best scene in the movie. But my problem with Temple of Doom is that it's like they try to outdo everything they did in Raiders to the point where you see the special effects because the action scenes they came up with are impossible to do with stunt people. Like the whole thing when they're in the cars, they're going down the tracks. You can tell they're like models.
That was something I looked at when I was a kid and thought, wow, that would be a pretty cool amusement park ride. Getting in the mine cart and going down the
Well, that's one thing.
tracks.
That's one thing that Spielberg mentioned in the documentary. He actually said that he wanted to outdo the first one. So in the first one they had snakes. So what's scarier than snakes? Bugs. So they came up with the idea with the bugs. They're going in there with all the bugs.
That part.
And then they go out to the they
Those
have
are some
the
big-
Actually,
pretty big-ass
Disneyland in
bugs.
California has a Raiders of the Lost Ark ride or Indiana Jones ride, and it's supposed to be awesome. It's supposed to be a combination roller coaster funhouse.
I'll take your word for it.
I just don't like the sugary sweet nature of the film. Like there's a scene where them kissing at the end, and Troy goes, "Oh, I can't look." Of course, the elephant sprays him with water, and it's just so sugary. It makes me want to
I don't like
vomit.
that stuff either.
Even
Anyways.
Spielberg admits that's his least favorite of the trilogy.
So
I think
what
everybody
do we
says
think of
that.
the third one?
Not me.
Well, the third one came 5 years after after Temple of Doom, and I think is a big improvement over the
what's it
previous
called
entrant,
again?
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I will say though that the Raiders of the Lost Ark is still the best film, but this one actually decides to add a new character into the proceedings, and that is Indiana Jones' father, played by Sean Connery, and this one concerns his efforts.
Borderline stunt casting.
well, I thought it worked. And this one concerns the Holy Grail. And I love the opening prologue, which actually shows Indiana Jones as an adult, played by River Phoenix. And I think River Phoenix...
No, Indiana Jones is a kid.
I'm sorry, Indiana Jones is a kid, and it's played by River Phoenix, and I think River Phoenix does a really good job.
That was actually one of the best parts of that film.
I thought it was
the most memorable.
And in fact, River Phoenix actually played Harrison Ford's son in a movie called The Mosquito Coast, which actually I consider to be Harrison Ford's best performance.
Very good film.
Very good performance and good movie. And River Phoenix does a very good job, even though he's only in the movie like 10 minutes, a good job of, becoming Harrison Ford, really. I really felt he looks like him, too.
He's a young Harrison Ford. He captures that. I like the third one. I consider it a fun family film.
I think that this one actually is a little bit darker than the second one. Like not darker, a little bit more serious, but yet there's a lot of humor in it. And sometimes it's a little distracting, but I think the interplay between Harrison Ford and Sean Connery is really good.
I don't like how they make Denholm Elliott's character this sort of bumbling buffoon when he was established as a pretty cool character in the first film. You'd think he'd be smarter. Mm-hmm. I think Alison Doty's hot.
Boy, her career went nowhere after the film. She just disappeared.
But there's some good things in it. I thought
the ending. I thought the ending is great.
In Venice was really good. The ending was really interesting.
But the boat chase reminded me a lot of James Bond for some reason.
Well, but that's what it feels like. It feels like the third film in the James Bond series.
It does feel like Casino Royale.
It kind of feels like, I don't want to say Casino Royale. I would say it's like their gold.
The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah. We're really getting off.
I really liked.
The ending is very good, though. I love
the return to John Rhys Davies as Sala, because I thought that was a really great character, and it was a real welcome return to see him again. And I like how they tried to tie it in with the first one more. They just said, you know what, we're going to try to go back to what made the first one so special.
I love the scene when he's stuck in Nuremberg and during the rally.
Oh, that's great.
And he has Hitler sign his book. I thought it was a really neat little moment. I thought it was.
What do you think of the action scenes, though,
God,
compared
I barely
to the first
remember
one?
that.
The first one.
I don't. The thing is about the action scenes in the film, they don't stick out in my mind. What sticks out in my mind are more the character stuff, and it's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just that Raiders for me is one of the best conceived action films. I mean, nothing beats that whole truck chase car sequence, and the opening sequence. I mean, it just doesn't let up. The
airplane.
The third one is, the action scenes are actually surprisingly low-key, I think, compared to the previous films. And I guess maybe that was in response to all the criticism they got in Temple of Doom. They decided to tone that stuff down, make it less hard-edged.
Actually, Spielberg actually said he went back and actually shot more. There's a scene on the motorcycle with Sean Connery in the sidecar. Right. That was all added after the principal photography.
And stuff with Harrison Ford and Connery works. I mean, they're not that much far apart in age range. I mean, they're only like 10 years apart in reality, but it worked. I believed he was a smart
You don't think Connery had Harrison Ford at 10 years of age? As a, he could have, probably a good-looking 10-year-old. What I liked about what I liked about the first
Hook
and the third,
yes,
is you had a lot of the realism. You had that pulp adventure, but you had a realism. But both films end with a large degree of mysticism, and I like that. You don't get that in Temple of Doom.
No, and I like these.
I agree with that.
Both of these objects, too, in the first and the third, are biblical objects. Of course, you have the Ark of the Covenant, and then you have the Holy Grail. But the second one is just this thing they made up, these Shankara stones.
And they could have also entitled Indiana Jones and Indian People Are Scary.
There was a legend or archaeological thing behind Shankara stones.
What I like, too, is how it's kind of ambiguous. There's a supernatural power, but it never comes out as having this thing. You know what I'm saying? I like the way it's handled.
I don't think it's ambiguous.
Not so much as ambiguous. It's just it's handled well. It's not so...
They don't hammer you.
It's not hammered in it. It's not so silly. Well, it's just not. It's not like you drink from this, the cup, and you get super magical powers or all this. It's handled very well.
I loved it. Like I said, it's one of the few memorable things that I can actually remember when the film came out. Is he chose poorly.
And I love the way that they actually show the way he gets to the quest to get to the actual Grail. I think that's really well handled. Where he reads the passages and he goes, you have to kneel, and there's you have to have faith in the path and all this.
Yeah,
stuff.
you throw the stones on there, and
Yeah, and it has a nice look to it too. It's a very well photographed film.
Very well shot. I believe the man who shot all three, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was one of the greatest cinematographers of his time.
Oh, the Polish guy?
No.
He's not. He's British, actually.
His name is Douglas Holcomb, I believe is his name.
Yeah.
He's one of the greatest photographers or cinematographers of his time. He's done many, many films over the years. I mean, he's worked on everything.
He's still alive.
He's still alive, but he's like in his 90s. That's why he couldn't do the new one.
So should we get on to the new one?
Yeah, let's get on the new one. Okay. I mean, do you have anything
These
you
guys
want to add,
haven't
John?
seen it, so this is going to
Do you
be.
want anyone to add about
just to clear
Crusade?
it up, folks, we haven't seen Indy
The
4
Last
because
Crusade.
we just don't give a shit.
I guess I'd have to say
Jeff hasn't said anything.
I remember
Sorry,
two
Jeff.
action sequences from that film. One with Sean Connery and the umbrella making the birds fly into the enemy planes and making it crash, and the tank fight. But I would have to say I enjoyed The Last Crusade. I saw that one also in theaters. I still, to this day, have not seen Raiders of the Lost Ark in theater, but I enjoyed Last Crusade. I agree with pretty much what everybody had to say about it.
So you said that you enjoyed Temple of Doom the most, but what's your favorite? I mean, is that your favorite of all the films?
I would probably have to say yes, because I saw that as a child, so it has that nostalgia.
But it's not like you were,
It's not on my 10 best
yeah, but
list.
you saw Last Crusade though as a kid too.
Yeah, but see, I was a younger kid when I saw Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, so I had never seen anything like that
I
before.
can kind of understand because he's never seen it. He didn't see Raiders of the Lost Ark now, because that if you've never seen Raiders of the
No,
Lost
but
Ark,
I would think Last Crusade's a much better film than
It's a
Temple
much
of
better.
Doom.
It's a much better film, but I've seen films like that. By the point I had seen Last
Wait,
Crusade.
if you're saying if you sat in front of a big screen
King Solomon's
TV and
mind
saw one,
beats them all.
Wait a second. If you sat in front of a big screen TV right now and watched all three of the films, you could honestly say Temple of Doom would still hold up as your favorite, you think?
I would say probably it would still hold up as my favorite. I wouldn't say it was the best made, but it would probably still be my favorite.
So basically, you're saying that this is all on nostalgia right now.
Yes, and I have a right to say that.
No, I'm just
I
saying.
agree with you.
Okay.
I can understand. I mean, there's a big difference. At least you're not admitting it's like the best. You're just saying it's your favorite. There's a
Yeah,
big
it's my
difference
favorite.
between being
Yeah.
your favorite and the best. All right. Well,
As you have
Square
pointed
here.
out many
all right.
times.
As everyone
I
knows,
wasn't accusing you.
Oh, okay.
man.
I just wanted to make
Wow.
sure.
it's almost been 19. It's almost been 20 years. Actually,
guilty.
19 years
Yeah,
to be exact.
You're making me
Since
feel ashamed.
people are trying.
That's funny. Keep going.
19, I'm
I'm
trying,
not
guys.
projecting.
19 years since the previous film, Crusade, and
Boy, they waited
many,
long
many, many
enough.
scripts have been written. Frank Darabont actually wrote one. And
M. Night Shyamalan.
he got into a fight with Lucas because he didn't, they didn't get along. And
Not
then
a physical
M. Night Shyamalan, Ding Long, whatever his name is, wrote one.
Shyamalan.
Okay, he sucks anyway. Okay, he wrote a script. Numerous people wrote scripts, and nothing ever happened. And then Harrison Ford gave him an ultimatum: either you get this film made now, or it's not happening because I'm 65 years old. And we need to get it done now.
Just out of curiosity, did you guys know anything about those other scripts?
Frank
many-
Darabont one I knew about.
Yeah, and there was another one actually. There was a lot of ideas floated around. Like one was where he'd go on and look for the golden fleece. There was another
Well, there's
one.
one where and it's actually you can get it online where he finds the Ark, Noah's Ark, like in the Arctic or something like that.
The one,
Who wrote that one?
I forgot who wrote that one, but that one involved that was the first script that introduced he had a son.
Was it good?
No.
Okay.
What I would have loved to see him do, and in fact, I think they even did a video game. What was Find the Lost City of Atlantis, which I thought would be a very interesting thing. But in this one, they tried to make it like the Lost City of Gold, El Diablo, which is a very famous thing. But then
Sort of. Yeah.
They have a little thing about it, but instead they decide to go into something called the Crystal Skull, which many people know are these Aztec skulls that are made of pure crystal. Supposedly they're real. And
For reals.
well, some people say they're fake. Like they were made later as trinkets, and now you can buy them at any gift store. Anyway, this one, the other films in the series actually went after, I guess you could say, biblical objects, stuff that was like based on real things, and this one does too. But instead it goes a sci-fi angle. So I guess you could call this one Indiana Jones meets the X-Files. Would you say?
Well, one of the original titles one of the original script titles was Indiana Jones and the Saucer Man.
Oh,
But look, this is my thing.
go ahead, Eric. I'm going to give it to you. I know you have a lot to say.
I had problems with this film. I think it's the least engaging of the Indiana Jones film. Not because of the idea behind it. I don't mind the sci-fi element. This is the problem I had with the film, though. This film was supposed to be set in the 1950s because obviously Harrison Ford, at this point,
old now.
and it makes sense. And I love the idea of it being set in 50s. In fact, the first quarter of the film really, really takes advantage of that conceit. I love the idea that it's the post-atomic age. I love the idea that it's dealing with the Cold War.
And the communist witch hunts.
And if it's going to go, and I understand the idea, the original Raiders films because they take place in the 1930s, they were meant to be homages to the 1930s serials, right? Cliffhanger serials.
Yeah.
If you're going to do a film that takes place in 1957, which I think it's supposed to take place in,
Yes.
what were the big films in 1957? Science fiction films, like Alien Invader films. The problem I had with this film is, okay, if you're going to do that, then make it seem like a 1950s sci-fi film, but not a 21st century science fiction film.
Explain.
What I mean by that is
Spoiler.
modern day science fiction films are going to deal with alternate realities and things coming in from the fourth dimension, all that stuff, space-time continuum. Plus the special effects are like, aliens that would be made for a movie that is a modern day science fiction. Whereas in the 1950s, the science fiction conceit is like the original thing from another planet or the day the Earth stood still. There's this almost quaint kind of concept.
This island Earth.
But the thing is, spoilers galore here. The film starts off with Indiana Jones at Area 51, basically.
Great idea. Which
is a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
And he's being forced by the Russians to find this particular artifact, which is proof that alien exists, basically. It's a mummified body of an alien. And that the crystal skull is actually the alien skull. But the problem with the film is it starts with this beautiful conceit. It takes place in the 1950s, and it's filmed like it's in the 1950s. It has this wonderful concept where the FBI suspects Indiana Jones of being a communist. I'm thinking to him, great, so he's not fighting the Nazis. Okay, they introduced the Russians, but how cool would it be that the enemies in this are the FBI and J. Edgar Hoover? What a great fucking idea.
Nope.
And they drop it.
Yeah, they completely drop it because they could have been good because
in
the
fact,
whole thing.
After from the very beginning of the film to the point where they introduce Shia LaBeouf, who's not bad in this film actually. I didn't think he was bad at all.
I thought his character was very
when they
contrived.
have the whole motorcycle chase sequence to the campus, which is the best action scene in the film, I think. After that's over, the film derails for me. It becomes all CGI. There are moments where it's like it doesn't matter where they're at. Geographically, it all seems studio bound.
I agree. That's my problem with the film is that Harrison Ford and Steven Spielberg and all the guys who made the other films made this film in this universe, and they all fit together. The first three, they all look like they were filmed in the same style. The look and everything. This one has Jan Kaminski, who I don't think is the greatest cinematographer, like some people do, trying to ape Douglas Holcomb's style. He doesn't really do a good job of it. It's very contrived too. There's too many loose ends. You have Shia LaBeouf in there. He's basically pushed in there as Indiana Jones' son, which I thought was kind of contrived.
I was surprised that it did work well up to a point. I liked how he wasn't like the annoying short round type sidekick. This guy obviously has a mind of his own. He's an intelligent character. He's good in a fight. There's like parallels. Also, there's parallels to his skills. He's good with a knife and stuff like that, whereas Indiana Jones is good with the whip. And you get that grudging respect and admiration these characters develop. They just don't develop it enough. They just want to cut to those action scenes. Even when they reintroduce Karen Allen
That's a welcome return.
as Marion Ravenwood, they don't do anything with her. She's just like smiling, driving a car. That's basically what her role is throughout the rest of the film.
I thought it was good to see her again because I thought, I thought she was probably the best of all the female characters in the Indiana Jones saga. But I do agree with you, they don't do enough with her. And another thing, which is driving me crazy, like you said, the CGI. There was no CGI in the other films. This one is like basically all shot behind a blue screen. And I mean, how in the first film you had, of course, the guy with his eyes melting, which is pretty disturbing. Then you had the person in the second one, with the heart. And then the third one, you had the guy drinking from the cup. And this one, of course, they have a guy being devoured by ants. But of course, it's shot from far away and it's CGI. So you don't really get...
I like the ant sequence. I thought that was cool. But it's like the whole truck chase through the jungle. That entire thing, the trucks, the stunt people, it reminded me of Van Helsing.
It's really phony looking.
It reminded me of Van Helsing. It's like, why even do this scene in CGI when they could have used stunt people? It was just...
Well, as somebody who hasn't seen the film and quite frankly just doesn't give a shit, how was Ray Winstone?
He's good, but he's an unnecessary character. I don't even know why the character was in the film.
Because they wanted him to have a sidekick.
But he really wasn't a sidekick.
I know.
Even that was an interesting idea for a character, that these are two guys that became buddies during World War II. Harrison Ford is a war hero at this point, and they both worked for the OSS. That's their history together. That's how they met each other, and they just became partners. But like they kind of hint that Ray Winstone's sort of like the dark
Indiana Jones.
sort of the yin to the Indiana Jones yang. and you don't know whose side he's on. The other problem I have is that they set up the Russians to be the villains, but they're really not that bad.
No, and I mean...
In fact, there are times where, like, Indy's like, okay, I'll work with you. It's just, there's no real tension there. I mean, Kate Blanchett is actually pretty good in it,
she's very good.
She's not bad enough. I mean, she's not threatening.
I don't blame her. I blame that more on the script. They didn't give her
it's
enough
not a good
to do.
script. It's like the scriptwriter took all the elements from all the previous scripts, just threw them together and just film. Let's just film that.
And the person I felt sorry for the most was John Hurt. There's an actor who's terrific, but they just give him a thing where he just comes off as a crazy old man, and it's ridiculous.
They had too many hero characters. It was just like way too many, and nobody was given any time. I mean, even when they reveal that he's his son, it's a sort of a wasted moment. They don't. There's no real.
By the way, he's your son. Oh, really?
Yeah, that's basically what it is.
I mean, seriously, that's how it comes off. And the thing too, we gotta mention.
But Harrison Ford's great in it.
He is very good. The problem I have, the one problem that drove me nuts, this movie's very confusing, believe it or not, where they're talking about the skull and what it can do, and the feet. It's like, what? I had
they talk way too much about there's way too much exposition, too.
Way too much. And another thing that drove me, the thing is, I got to give it some credit, because I did enjoy it. I'll say what I did like. I did like seeing Karen Allen again. I thought Harrison Ford was very good. I thought it was great, like I said, to see Karen Allen again, because I thought she was great. And there is some very beautiful production design. It's just that it does not feel like it belongs in the Indiana Jones universe. I mean, because, like I said, it's sci-fi, but it doesn't go sci-fi enough, like you said.
Well, it doesn't go sci-fi according to the conceit that's supposed to be in the 1950s. In fact, the film, you get the 1950s, they do it beautifully, and then after that part is done, after they leave the college campus, you forget the film's set in the 1950s.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the reason why Jeff nor I really want to go see it.
Well, I have to mention one thing, too. It's got
Let me just give a caveat, though. It's still better than a lot of things out there. I jokingly say this is the best of the Mummy series.
I agree with them.
That's what this is like. This is like a Mummy film. It's
that ain't saying too much.
I know.
It's better.
But it is, I mean, it's definitely watchable. I mean, hey, you were telling me how you're trying to push me to rent Alien vs. Predator Requiem to review on the show, which I resist.
That's just right. Yeah, but
I guarantee this film is 1,000 times better than that.
To me, it's apples and oranges, though.
I
really.
think it's
apples and
1,000
oranges.
times better.
I will say this, though. It's much better than I expected it to be. I will say that.
I was really rooting for it.
I was hoping.
And I just found there was a point where it's like, I can't wait for this film to be over. I'm just not. Just wasn't engaged.
I think the problem is part of my lack of interest in it is I just think they waited too long.
I do agree with you on that, and that's another thing that's there's a scene.
Actually, I don't think they waited long enough because they just gave it like maybe 6 more months to really polish that script. I mean, they waited this long. Why couldn't they just wait a little longer to make a great movie?
No, but Spielberg and Lucas, they're not good with scripts, really. I mean, first of all, Spielberg can't still end a movie to save his life. I mean, even when he puts out a good film like Munich, he still can't fucking end it properly. And we all know Lucas, his forte is definitely not script writing.
Well, they're toned down. The films are toned down for the largest audience demographic.
Yeah, dig up Lawrence Kasdan and have him write something.
I don't understand why I didn't have Lawrence Kasdan. I mean, he didn't have it.
He wrote 2 of the best scripts for George Lucas ever, which was Raiders of the Lost Ark and Empire Strikes Back.
Or I'd love to read Frank Darabont's script.
And Frank Darabont's a really good writer, but they said Harrison Ford loved it, Spielberg loved it, Lucas didn't. So that's a shame because Frank Darabont, I think, is one of the best writers out there today. I really do. I am going to give credit to one scene. You just made me think of something. The scene where Indiana Jones goes onto the atomic test site, where he finds the village, whatever.
That is a completely illogical scene, but it works.
I like it, but I do hate the scene with him in the refrigerator, which I think is one of the most dumbest things I've seen.
It worked for me because what happens is the way they pull it off is they have this iconic moment where it's silly, but then he gets out. And it's just this sort of chilling, iconic moment where you see, okay, Indiana Jones is now in the atomic age.
That's
cool.
That was good. It's like, you remember Hills Have Eyes, the remake, where they find that thing with all the dummies? He actually runs into a village that's like that, which is about to be exploded by an atomic bomb.
Oh, interesting.
But the way he survives is really stupid.
It's silly, but I don't know. I thought it worked. I mean, look, you've seen more illogical stuff in James Bond films.
My question is how has the show not ended yet?
Well, we're about to end right now. Well, I can honestly say I think we'll all agree Raiders of the Lost Ark is the best movie. It's not Jeff's favorite. His is Temple of Doom. I guess we could all recommend Last Crusade next, and then I would say Temple of Doom, and then finally.
But
the
also
last one.
warn people that the box set really blows that came out. I mean, it's got a lot of stuff that they could
There's
have
a good
put on there.
documentary. I mean, it's a little too laudatory. I mean, it's not, it's not one of the. It's a decent documentary on the making of Raiders.
Well, be
of the Lost
careful
Ark.
too, because there is two versions of the DVDs, and one version has different documentaries than the other one. Anyway, I guess that'll
Which
bring this
one is better?
The first one, the earlier one. But anyway, I guess that'll bring this show to a close. Anyway, see Indiana Jones, watch it. Let us know what you think of the new one. You can
Or
do
wait for it to come on
or wait for
Netflix.
DVD. But yeah, email us
I
or
will,
visit us on
most
YouTube
likely.
or MySpace and let us know what you think, and we'll get back to you. Anyway, till next week. This is the Cinefiles. Thanks.
You hope we get back to you.
I hope so too.
We can go home.
Yeah, I don't know.
We should do a show on best DVD documentaries.
Yeah, there's some good ones. The Indiana Jones though, the one that the box.
My
set, the
favorite
first
one is The Thing.
Actually, the Dark Days, the documentary on Blade Runner, is incredibly fantastic.
This looks like
It's long, but
this
it
looks
is-
like a building from
you will
Blade
be
Runner over
held
behind us.
rapt
The new.
watching that thing. It's just a very skillfully made film. It's a lot of fun. It's charming. I just love this film.
gonna say something.
What else do you want me to say?
Well, I have something to say.
Please be my guest.
Okay, it is not my favorite, but I want you to hear my reasons why not. This was not the first Indiana Jones film I ever saw.
Temple of Doom?
Yes, Temple of Doom was the first one I
How
saw.
old were you when it came out?
The
The first one.
Well, what year did it come out?
What was that,
81.
81?
I was only 3 years old, so there was no way I was going to see that in the
ages
theater.
me.
Sorry. But, I mean, I don't think it's a bad film. It's just not my favorite. But I do think, unlike Mr. Folt here, I do think Steven Spielberg has talent as a filmmaker. If anybody is to blame with the diminishing work of at least the Indiana Jones movies, I more blame George Lucas. But that is not a personal
Which
attack.
actually is funny. Sorry to cut in your comment, but I remember when Raiders of the Lost Ark came out, everyone was saying, oh, this movie's great. Everyone wanted to say it, but it's only good because George Lucas was involved, because the whole Star Wars thing. And now, as time will tell, no, probably a good movie because of Steven Spielberg's involved.
Exactly.
The reason I like it,
Because your guy on your left here, this was his film that charted his childhood.
I'll have you go, Eric. How about that?
All right, I'll give it a stab. Raiders of the Lost Ark, I was obsessed with it when I was a kid. It was it still is one of my favorite
Why don't you pick at
movies.
your nails when you say that? Because you see, he
Because I'm
seems
a
so
pompous
distracted.
ass.
Seems so distracted.
For you, our YouTube fans, you can check out the comments for yourself.
I love that guy, by the way. I forgot his name. What the fuck was I talking about?
Raiders of the
Raiders.
Lost Ark.
Raiders is just awesome. I love it. I think it's still one of the best films of its kind. Definitely
Why?
one of the best action films ever.
Why do you think it works?
Because it's a kick-ass action film. It's up there with Mad Max, The Road Warrior. It's up there with some of the great action films. The second Terminator film, the first Terminator film. It's a kick-ass
The
action
second
film.
Terminator film.
Yeah,
That's
the James Cameron.
It's all right.
I think
no.
Event Horizon.
No, the second
Alien
Terminator.
versus Predator.
Ooh,
Hey,
he got you there.
He
I like
always
both.
uses that. It's so cheap.
I like both. So
He's
I'm
so
guilty.
cheap.
Anyways,
head of the Uwe Boll fan club to my left, Mr. Eric Cohn.
Uwe Boll.
To his left, Jeff Galashaw. And to his left, Michael Folt. All right. Well, I just mentioned Uwe Boll. I had to throw that in there. People, I don't know if you know this, there is a petition out there to stop Uwe Boll from directing films.
Uwe Boll.
Uwe Boll. Whatever. It sounds like a virus to me.
Uwe.
If it gets 1 million signatures, Uwe Boll. It sounds like a toilet.
Uwe?
Uwe Boll.
Well, you can flush him down the bowl.
A special
because if he gets
toilet.
1 million signatures, he will stop directing films, supposedly. So look for that petition online.
And we're already giving him much more marketing than he deserves.
But let's talk about a filmmaker very similar to Uwe Boll in style.
Oh, that's a low blow. Come
Heartless
on.
thug.
Dude, that is so mean.
All right, well, let's get into it. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas teamed up for the first time and made Raiders of the Lost Ark, which has gone on to become one of the most iconic films in history. Now, it's been 27 years, and hell, the theme is still stuck in my head all these years. Let's start off, Mike.
No, don't start off with me.
You don't. Hi, I'm Edwin Samuelson. Welcome to the Cinefiles, the show that allows you to eavesdrop on the conversation of fellow film fanatics. All right, well, today we're discussing one of the big summer movie franchises, which is Indiana Jones. This summer, the Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out. And
Sound a little more enthusiastic over there. You just sound like you're on autopilot.
Yeah.
Jeez.
This is Jeff saying
That's
that.
Jeff saying that. Really? Well, hell, I can't really get too enthusiastic as some people. I'm not gonna stand out. I'm not gonna stand outside for 3 days to get tickets for this thing. But we will be discussing all 4 of the films this week, and we'll start off, of course, with the most famous of all of them, which is Raiders of the Lost Ark, which has been retitled for video for people who do not know that it's an Indiana Jones film. It's Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Anyway,
I did not know that.
before I begin, let me introduce